After being reborn in Senior 3, I rejected the goddess I had been chasing for 3 years and instead set my sights on the cold and rich girl in school. Having been reborn, who still cares about the goddess? Who wants to be a love-struck fool anymore? Isn't a rich girl great? Besides, in my previous life, I chased her for 3 years and was almost rejected by her to the point of doubting life. Now that I don't chase her anymore. But the goddess is in a hurry. The goddess Natalie held her chin with both hands and looked at me with full arrogance. Stephen, why did you take back the love letter you wrote to me? I chuckled and took the love letter from her hand. Didn't you not want it? Then don't waste it. I'll change the name and give it to someone else. She pursed her lips and the corners of her mouth slightly curled up. Stephen, you still have a chance. I just don't want to fall in love now. I glanced at her and instantly broke out in a cold sweat. If it were the me in adolescence, it might really be possible to continue being a love-struck fool because of her casual words. But now looking at it from my perspective in my 30s, you still consider me first. You are so kind. Listen, is this human language? I regard you as a goddess. But you just take me as a love-struck fool? Natalie, seeing that I didn't respond, hurriedly added another sentence. Stephen, I'm not joking with you. I spoke with disdain, completely ignoring her blushing on the spot. But I think I don't really like you. It's better for us not to disturb each other. Natalie panicked and her voice trembled. Stephen, I don't believe you don't like me. You bring me breakfast every day and wait for me after evening self-study every day just. For 3 years. It has always been me chasing her. She has always been superior. She may never have thought that one day I would stop liking her. It was just for fun. But you took it seriously. I don't want to be a love-struck fool for even a second. Chasing blindly will only end up with nothing. After hearing this, Natalie exploded immediately. Stephen, I will never talk to you again. When Natalie was about to walk away, I called out to her. She was a little happy for a moment. And the pride returned to her face. What's wrong? Do you have anything else? But I have to tell you in advance that you won't have any chance anymore. I glanced at the stationery bag in my hand. Are we taking the college entrance examination? Is it over? Which subject is it now? Natalie was slightly stunned. It's over. This is the last one. It's really great that it's the last one. If I had to take the exam again, I might not even be able to get into college. To the setting sun shines on my body and the breeze brushes across my cheek. I feel this body full of youth and vitality. If I remember correctly, the south of the city should be the first area to be demolished in the old urban area. Looking at this old residential area, I can't help but drool. But now there is a very serious problem. That is, I don't have any money at all. Buying a house or land is unrealistic. Investing in stocks without principal. This is the disadvantage of not having a system. Without money, nothing is possible and nothing can be done. Did I have a fake rebirth? Returning home and feeling the familiar warmth. I can't help but feel some emotion. In my previous life, I left before I could be filial to my parents. Then let me make up for the regret in my heart in this life. After dinner, my mom stuffed $500 bills into my hand as pocket money for my summer vacation expenses. Looking at the $500 in my hand, my heart is slightly sour. Which big entrepreneur has only $500 as the original capital? I took the money and went back to my bedroom. I found Patrick's WeChat and sent him a message, telling him to gather at the old street early tomorrow morning. I only said that there are 500 yuan and a big project that can make a fortune. Patrick. He is a big money fanatic. His dream is to earn enough money and save up to buy a house of his own in the prosperous south of the city. Looking at Patrick, who is so eager to make money now, I really don't know if I should tell him. 10 years later, he not only failed to realize his dream, but became the father of 2 children at a young age. And the children are not his biological ones. 3 Patrick is still the same as before. He calls me brother as soon as he sees me. Not for anything else. Just because I have 500 yuan in my pocket. Steven, how are you going to spend the 500 yuan in your pocket? I haven't been to a bar yet. Shall we go and experience it? I ignored him. Today I only do one thing: make money. Stop talking nonsense. See that big sister selling flowers? Go and ask how much the flowers cost. Patrick looked in the direction I pointed. The expression on his face was quite complicated. I gave the flower-selling big sister 200 yuan and told her not to ask. Just make the flowers. In addition, I bought 50 yuan worth of small colored lights in a small store and carefully decorated the flowers. Patrick found 2 cardboard boxes and packed some of the made flowers. I took him to the Lover Square in the south of the city. Although flowers are nothing special, when I sell them to poor young couples, it's a kind of romance. Decorated with small colored lights. The flowers are even better sold in the evening. In no time, they were all sold out. Patrick was so tired. I took out 20 $10 bills and handed them to him. This guy immediately stopped complaining about being tired. He clutched the money and shouted, "Thank you, brother. Godfather. Shall we do it again tomorrow?" My past experience as a love-struck fool tells me that if you spend 200 yuan to invite the goddess to eat, she may look down on you. But if you earn 200 yuan with your brother and then invite him to eat, he will call you godfather. Do nothing. I'm almost exhausted. I only earned 300 and gave you 200. I cursed while thinking about the first pot of gold. If it doesn't work, go back and persuade the couple to sell the house and directly buy World Cup lottery tickets. Patrick still can't forget about bars and begs me to take him to experience it. Before we could take a few steps, 2 familiar figures appeared in front of us. One is Mia, the representative of Chinese language class in the class. The other is Natalie. Mia was wearing a light yellow dress and had her fluffy hair loose. She had a cute and obedient feeling. As soon as she saw me, she immediately raised her hand and greeted. "Steven, Patrick, why are you here?" Hearing someone calling me, I subconsciously looked up. My eyes accidentally intersected with Natalie's in the bustling crowd. I restrained my smile and turned my head inferently. For because of the memories of my previous life, I always have some relief when looking at love. The soul of being in my 30s has brought me enough maturity. Now I really have no good feelings for Natalie. Love-struck fools. In the end, they have nothing. I just want to focus on making money. When Mia asked what we were doing, Patrick told her everything about our flower selling today. His words were full of pride, as if it was something very worthy of being proud of. "Steven, why did you suddenly start doing business?" I casually made up a sentence, saving money to marry a rich girl. Natalie's reaction was rather strong. "What? Marry a rich girl?" I didn't spoil her either and directly replied, "None of your business." Mia was amused by my words and chuckled. "You are saving money from now on. Just how expensive a rich girl are you going to marry?" I slightly raised the corners of my mouth and chuckled. "It depends on how many I marry. The more I marry, the more money I need." During this process, Natalie's eyes were slightly cold and her expression was gloomy. She put her arm around Mia's and was very affectionate. Mia, who was in pain, came to her senses and looked at her. Then she looked at me. Then she seemed to remember something and smiled. "Don't you like Natalie? Why look for a rich girl? Isn't Natalie good? She is cute and beautiful. The key is she is very gentle." My face turned pale and I said seriously, "Sister, please spare me. Shallow waters are full of small-minded people. Want me to continue being a love-struck fool? Continuing to chase blindly is impossible. Whoever wants to chase can go ahead." When Natalie heard this sentence, she completely broke down. "Steven, what exactly do you mean?" I waved my hand. "It doesn't mean anything. You guys continue playing. I'm leaving first." "You are not allowed to leave. I didn't let you leave. So you are not allowed to leave." I waved my hand as if I didn't hear it and merged into the flow of people on the street without looking back. Natalie stood there looking at my distant back, feeling extremely wronged. Tears couldn't help but well up in her eyes. She is not like the heroine in a cheesy novel who suddenly realizes that she likes me. Natalie just feels that she seems to be looked down upon by me. As if she is a loathsome thing. The goddess in adolescence where the school beauty all have very sensitive hearts and very proud self-esteem. She is treated like this by someone who has been desperately chasing her. Of course. She will be full of grievances. 5. I kept telling myself over and over again. Don't be a love-struck fool. Don't be a love-struck fool. Don't be a love-struck fool anymore. Having been reborn. Who still cares about the goddess? I know we have become strangers. The best way is not to disturb each other. What she does has nothing to do with me. I just want to focus on making money. I become mature. I no longer be a love addict or a love-struck fool. I don't look for her on WeChat anymore. I don't send good morning or good night messages anymore. I don't secretly leave messages on her moments anymore. I also changed my profile picture to Itome Koto. The signature was also changed to be a real man like Sigma. My thinking is quite advanced. She also sent me a message asking me why I locked my moments and what the signature means. I never replied to her. Thinking of the small essays I once wrote for her. I even want to laugh. Perhaps the joy and frivolity of youth are the interweaving of beauty and misfortune. I decided not to take detours in this life. Focusing on making money is the right way. Is studying a way out for me? How would I know if I don't try? I decided to take studying as the first way to make money and prove myself. There are really a lot of books in the city library. But for me, they are really not very useful. I only picked a few that are most useful to me. How to be a gentle and warm man that rich girls like. 15 successful cases of touching rich girls with details. From 0 to 1. 50 get rich quick skills. How can I marry a rich girl? Why didn't I find out before that books can really teach me how to touch rich girls? To be honest. In my opinion. In the current situation. The only shortcut to getting the first pot of gold is to marry a rich girl. Rich man? No, it's not possible. Before I could sit down with a stack of books in my arms. My eyes were attracted by the corner in the southeast. There was a young girl sitting there. She was wearing a waist-cinching dress and had her soft blonde hair draped over her shoulders. Under the sunlight. She was as bright as a pearl. At this moment. The young girl was holding a thick book and reading it seriously. She was cute and gentle. The dazzling thing is never the sunlight but the shining youth of the young girl. There are still some benefits to being reborn. At least the memories of the past are still vivid. Isn't that exactly Daisy? The cold and rich girl in our school? 6. Daisy is the real white moonlight in the hearts of all boys in Changnan High School. With the aura of a rich girl. Girls can't help but take a few more glances when they see her. Noble. Elegant. Intellectual. And quiet. Every day when going to and from school, she is picked up and dropped off by a car with wings. There are also dedicated drivers and bodyguards. Daisy really has the temperament of a rich lady from a wealthy family. She has a cold personality and no friends. Except for answering questions in class. She never says a word to anyone. The most important thing is that she doesn't like love-struck fools. It is precisely because of her cold and aloof temperament that keeps people thousands of miles away. Coupled with the deterrence of burly bodyguards. As a result, although she has countless admirers, no one has ever dared to confess to her. Daisy seemed to notice that I was looking at her. To be honest, no matter how old a man is, the attraction of a young girl is hard to resist. Looking at her shining brightly, I was a little lost in thought. Daisy raised her eyebrows and glanced over. After looking at me for a moment without any emotion, she quickly focused her eyes back on the book in her hand. When reading is such a boring thing, and you can't read it anymore, looking at beautiful women is also a good choice. I walked straight over and sat on the table opposite her. Fortunately, I am quite handsome. Otherwise, I would definitely be regarded as a frost goblin harassing her and be taken away by the bodyguard. But I don't quite understand why a handsome guy is called flirting and an ugly guy is called harassing. I casually closed the book. After getting up, I pushed the chair and was about to walk out. Daisy moved the book away and looked at me with a pair of clear eyes. Then she took the sign on the right side of the desk and put it in front of me. My eyes swept over the sign. My shoulders trembled slightly, and I left silently. When meeting a rich girl. How can it work without some schemes? The moment I saw her, I made a certain decision in my heart. I want to pursue the rich girl Daisy. Daisy looked at my distant figure, and didn't continue to speak. She just put down her book silently. She quietly walked around to the opposite side of the table, and gathered up the books I had spread out. Just as Daisy was putting away the last book, I appeared in her field of vision, and softly stopped her. I'm not planning to run away. I just got thirsty and went to buy a bottle of water to drink. It's all a misunderstanding. I'm really sorry. I'll buy you a bottle of drink. I unscrewed the juice in my hand and handed it to Daisy's side. She didn't take it. She was stunned for a moment. She didn't speak, make a sound, or move. Finally, she lowered her head and returned to her seat. Then she raised the book high again to cover her delicate face. The difficulty coefficient of courting a rich girl is really not low. But that makes me even more excited. I sat back in my seat and continued reading. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw a fair and slender hand stretch out from behind the book Dream of the Red Chamber. First, it grasped the bottle of juice, and then quietly retracted. In the following days, whenever I had time, I would come to the city library. I would meet Daisy every time. I would sit at the same table as her every time. Face to face. But neither of us spoke. We just concentrated on reading our own books. However, every time I came, I wouldn't come empty-handed. Sometimes I would bring some snacks. After 1 or 2 times, Daisy also started to bring some snacks. And every time she put them very close to my side. Although we had no communication at all, we were quite tacit. In this way, this delicate relationship between us lasted for half of the vacation. 7 Daisy is really a feast for the eyes no matter how you look at her. Now she no longer completely hides her face with a book. However, the coldness in her eyes remains unchanged. And there is almost no desire to start a conversation. Seeing that the vacation was about to end, I still couldn't resist speaking. Classmate Sue, can I borrow some money from you? I coughed to make my expression look as sincere as possible. Daisy blinked in confusion. Then she was silent for a moment and slapped the pink purse hanging on the chair in front of me. I was completely stunned. Judging from this behavior, she is definitely a rich girl. But the money I'm talking about is not a few hundred, but a lot. How much do you want to borrow? I originally wanted to just say a number, but I was very hesitant. Saying too much makes the other party feel embarrassed. Saying too little is not enough. Well, lend me as much as you have. But I will pay you back soon. I will definitely not abscond with the money. After thinking for a moment, Daisy nodded obediently. I know. I'll bring it to you tomorrow. I was stunned by her again. Rich girl? Is it so easy to be manipulated? When is borrowing money such an easy thing? Is the world I was reborn into still the same as before? The warm sunlight passed through the huge floor-to-ceiling windows of the library and fell on Daisy. I stared at her for a long time and felt that Daisy was really not joking with me. She really agreed to lend me money. But why do I have a sense of absurdity? Don't you need to write an IOU? Don't you ask me what it's for? Then you should at least ask when I will pay it back. She would leave on time every day. But this time, before leaving, Daisy deliberately paused. Then she turned around and waved goodbye to me. She is not so cold after all. I watched her leave. Then I turned my head and looked out through the huge floor-to-ceiling windows. Through the glass, I could clearly see the black Maybach parked downstairs. The driver opened the door and waited respectfully. The bodyguard stood on the side of the door with a serious and vigilant expression. Can I really borrow money? I was filled with some expectation and some doubts. Achai went to the city library as usual. Daisy was sitting there early as always. She opened her small purse and took out a bank card from it. She slapped it directly in front of me. Here's the money you want. Here you are. To be honest, as a 30-something-year-old uncle borrowing money from an 18-year-old girl, I feel a little embarrassed. I picked up the bank card. The silver and black card surface sparkled in the sunlight. I still felt a little unreal. Just borrowing money like this while standing? Thank you. What's the password? 6 sixes. The bank card password of rich people is really simple. I originally wanted to ask how much money was in it. But after hesitating for a moment, I still didn't have the nerve to ask. I always felt that it was a bit inappropriate to ask like this. It seemed very purposeful. Forget it. Whatever the amount is. But this should be the New Year's money, or pocket money of the young lady. At most. There are 50 or 60,000. Maybe even less. I planned to take this money first to do some small business and see if I could double it. Then buy a small flat building in the south of the city and earn a demolition compensation. Then return the money to Daisy. See how much is left and then start the real entrepreneurship plan. I asked Daisy. Did you get a bank card so early? It's not mine, Daisy said calmly. I just asked casually. But when I heard the answer, I was instantly stunned. I widened in my eyes. This card is not yours. Then whose is it? Daisy raised her clear eyes. I stole it from my mom. Is it appropriate for you to steal your mom's money and give it to me to spend? Daisy's expression was a little confused. It seemed that she herself didn't know why she did this. I was really stunned. What kind of relationship can make a young girl steal her mom's money and give it to me to spend? Boyfriend. Fiancé. Husband. Apart from these possibilities, I can't think of anything else. But the key problem is that I really don't know Daisy well. Even if we are classmates in the same school, we are not in the same class. Although we have read books and eaten snacks together these days, we haven't said much. This money is a bit hot to hold. After hesitating again and again, I reluctantly returned the bank card to her. I am really short of money. Because without money, nothing can be done. But persuading an innocent young girl to steal money from home. Is this still human? I'm afraid you'll be scolded when you go home. Forget it. Daisy shook her head in confusion. No. My mom has many cards. She won't notice if one is missing. 9. I still waved my hand and said with a smile. I can't borrow money that was secretly taken. Will you pay it back? Of course I will. It's just that. I hesitated. At this moment, there was a little person in my mind, constantly instigating me to accept it. Anyway, as long as I pay it back before it is discovered, I won't abscond with the money. I began to comfort myself over and over again. The rule of this world is like this. The bold ones are rewarded while the timid ones starve. Besides, it's borrowing money, not stealing money. I was persuaded by myself. I picked up the card again and took Daisy to the bank. Since Daisy didn't know how much money was in it either, she was extremely confused. I thought that since she was the creditor, it was necessary for her to know the specific amount inside. But then again, what is this girl thinking? Isn't she afraid that I'll cheat her? As a result, when I checked at the bank, I found that poverty really limits my imagination. Damn it. Ones. Tens. Hundreds. Thousands. Tens of thousands. Hundreds of thousands. I couldn't even count the number of digits. I widened my eyes and looked at Daisy in disbelief. More than 6 million. All in one bank card. The password is still 6 sixes. I feel so unreal. Novels wouldn't dare to write like this. Right? After returning from the bank, I sat in front of my desk in silence. I always felt that today's experience was even more absurd than being reborn. In any case, the matter of the first pot of gold was perfectly solved. I didn't even need to be so hesitant to start a business. I could just do it boldly. Buy a small building first and wait for the demolition to earn some money. Then invest in stocks and do some practical business. Finally, Directly enter the internet list streaming e-commerce. Starting a business couldn't be easier. Daisy patted me and looked at me with clear eyes. It seemed that she had something to say. I came to my senses a little. What's wrong? I want to make friends with you. I hope you don't be ungrateful. Daisy's expression was very serious. I was full of question marks and a little confused. My mind was stuck for a moment. Then I looked at Daisy, who was a little nervous. Then I slapped my head and felt that the situation suddenly became clear. She is obviously a bit of a natural airhead, and has mild social anxiety. Actually, we are already friends. Daisy widened and her eyes and pouted at me. Then when can you take me out to play? 10 I got Daisy's financial support, and decided to go all out and earn some money. The first batch of renovations in the south of the city was about to begin. Buying a demolition house naturally became my first choice. I took Patrick and wandered through the streets and alleys. I put up notices to buy houses in all the communities that would be demolished and renovated. Soon I bought the first demolition house. Patrick was with me. He sat next to me, a little restrained. A transfer contract and a purchase contract were placed in front of me. I was a little excited, and a little worried. 630. 0. I've already transferred the money. Okay. Patrick looked at my face and felt a little unreal. A high school graduate spent more than 600. 0 to buy a house. Classmates are still soaking in internet cafes. But you are already looking at houses and buying houses everywhere. Who can accept this? Damn it. I've been reborn. I've seen everything in my previous life. Live in a mediocre way is no longer possible. There is a vast world with great opportunities. I pushed the water cup in front of me forward. I revealed my cards. Brother won't pretend anymore. I am the rich second generation. Patrick swallowed. Brother. I haven't been to a massage parlor yet. Then wait for the admission notice to come down. I'll find time to take you to have a look. Thank you. Godfather. I grinned. Patrick. You are good. You really widened your path. This is so much better than falling in love. Who the hell still wants to be a love-struck fool? In my previous life, I saved 2 months' salary to treat the goddess to a Western meal. The goddess would only say thank you coldly. Looking at my brother again. A massage is enough for him to shout Godfather. Stephen. There is a class gathering in our class this afternoon. Are you going? I came to my senses and was slightly stunned. What's the gathering for at this time? Patrick sighed long and became gloomy. The grades will come out soon. If we don't gather now, after the grades come out, those who did poorly in the exam probably won't be in the mood to go. I thought about it and still refused. You guys go if you want. I won't participate. 11 I promised Daisy to take her out to play. Forget about the gathering. At the time we agreed on, Daisy appeared in my field of vision. She was wearing a floral dress and brown leather shoes. Her jet black hair was full of girlishness against the backdrop of the neon lights at night. I strolled with her in the old amusement park. Her curious eyes were darting around. She was full of interest in those small gadgets placed on the stalls. There was an already arranged schedule in Daisy's small bag. Every step of her daily life was arranged in advance. Practice piano in the morning. Learn ballet at noon. Study etiquette in the evening. Only in the afternoon can she take a break in the library. The childhood of rich girls should be spent like this. No one has ever entered her world. She has no friends, and thus there is no ordinary social interaction. Instead, she becomes socially anxious and is mistakenly regarded as cold by others. I looked at her and smiled. I took out the contract from my bag. I now have 4 demolition houses in my hand. In total, I spent more than 3 million from the card. And the compensation should be about 3 times. After getting the demolition compensation, I will pay back Daisy's money. At that time, I should still have 1 or 2 million left in my hand. Plus for houses. During this period of waiting for the demolition compensation, I don't plan to be idle either. I am going to use 2 or 300,000 to do some business. Buying a demolition house is, after all, taking shortcuts. But real entrepreneurship is completely different. The phone suddenly rang. It was a call from Patrick. It was really too sudden. "Steven, it's bad. Come to the gathering quickly." I was still wondering what couldn't be said on the phone, and why I had to go to the gathering. "Steven, come quickly. It's not clear to say on the phone." 12 Daisy got off the carousel and pointed at the roller coaster with a smile. "Steven, I want to ride that." For a moment, my mind went blank and I was stunned. I forced a smile on my face. Unexpectedly, my rich benefactor, who looks gentle and quiet, actually wants to ride such a crazy roller coaster. I'm shocked. Actually, I'm quite afraid. I can't remember when I last rode it. I only remember vomiting on the person in front, and then having an air disaster. Now thinking about it makes me scared. But she is the rich benefactor. I adjusted my mindset and looked at Daisy with a smile. "Ah, that's not fun. Let's go ride the Ferris wheel." Daisy shook her head and stomped her feet, looking at me pitifully. No, I want to play that. Take me to play." She is acting coquettely. I am me. The heart of this 30-something uncle of mine is about to melt. I'll risk it all and accompany this young girl once. The moment I stepped on the roller coaster, my legs began to tremble. I forced myself to be calm and pressed my thighs hard with both hands to try to look natural. "Steven, the news says there will be a short period of weightlessness. I'm so excited to ride it for the first time." Daisy was very happy. It was the first time I saw her smile, so naturally and relaxed. I responded to her vaguely. The couple in the back row discussed quietly and encouraged each other. "If you are afraid, shout out loud and hold my hand tight." I was so nervous that I couldn't speak. Just thinking about making a fool of myself later was already embarrassing enough. The feelings of dizziness and dazzling all concentrated on me. It felt like my CPU was about to burn out. I shouted so loudly that my stomach also became disobedient. It churned up and down and sprayed everywhere like a celestial maid unscattering flowers. The bald man in front gave me the middle finger. The roller coaster had stopped for a long time, but I still didn't react. I lay motionless on the seat like I had lost my memory. Daisy poked me and didn't speak. When I came to my senses, I quickly looked at her. Subconsciously, I thought that no matter what, I couldn't make the benefactor unhappy. Her eyes were red. She was about to speak, but then held back. "I'm fine. I'm just a little sleepy. Look, I can still jump." I wanted to go down and prove it. Only then did I find that my left hand and her right hand were tightly held together. As soon as I got off the roller coaster, I lay down on the ground, dizzy and giggling foolishly. The doctor said that I have congenital balance system disorder and I get dizzy easily. Sure enough, even after being reborn, this old problem still can't be got rid of. Daisy was fine as if nothing had happened and giggled. She helped me sit down on one side. She didn't say anything or do anything. She just looked at me quietly. In fact, a rich young lady like her doesn't know how to comfort others very well. They are born not having to please anyone and don't need to look at other people's faces. Of course, there are fewer so-called social interactions. The etiquette she learned is not suitable for us ordinary people at all. There is an inherent coldness. "I accidentally held your hand just now. Didn't I hurt you?" Daisy didn't care. She pulled me to play other projects. The phone rang again. It was really endless. Patrick's voice came from the other end of the phone. It was very loud and very anxious. "Steven, come quickly. If you don't come, there will be a life-threatening situation." I looked up at Daisy, thinking that she would be unhappy and would ask me to accompany her to continue playing. There was a trace of displeasure on her face. But then she smiled. "Steven, if you have something to do, go first. Don't worry about me. The driver will come to pick me up later." It's a lie to say that I'm not panicked. I'm extremely panicked inside. If there is really a life-threatening situation, I can't get away from it. Next time, I will definitely accompany you to play well next time. Daisy pouted and smiled happily and cutely. Thank you, Stephen, for taking me to play for so long. I'm very happy today. I left in a hurry, leaving her alone in the wind. As I was hailing a taxi on the side of the road, I looked back. Daisy was being escorted away by 2 bodyguards. That black Maybach appeared in my eyes again. Standing beside the car was a woman in dress luxuriously and exuding an air of nobility. 13 I couldn't care about so much. Human life is more important. When I went to the KTV at the address Patrick gave me, he was already waiting for me at the door. Stephen, you finally came. Natalie is drunk inside and is making a scene. She said that if you don't come, she will jump off the building. Come in quickly and see what to do. To be honest, I don't want to have anything to do with her now. Natalie saw me coming and had a smile on her face. Stephen, you are here. You still care about me after all. Come and sit down and have a drink with me. She was drunk and looked like a fallen woman. There was no trace of a school beauty at all. I picked up the wine on the table and drank it all in one gulp. Natalie, have you made enough trouble? Natalie stood up. Mia and the other 2 people couldn't hold her back. Have I made enough trouble? Stephen, why don't you like me? What's so good about Daisy? I didn't explain, and let her slander wantonly. Don't you think that Daisy's family will really look up to you? Don't you want to be a gigolo? I was simply not interested in arguing with her and was too lazy to explain. Natalie was so wrong that she almost cried and couldn't help but collapse on the leather sofa. As her good best friend, Mia, regardless of right or wrong, directly picked up a glass of wine and splashed it on my face. Stephen, you bastard. Natalie is so good to you. Now you are going to eat soft food? If it were the young me, I might change my mind and continue being a love-struck fool. But now, I can see clearly what they are. In this life, I would rather be a slave than be a love-struck fool again. The mentality of being in my 30s allows me to see through everything at a glance. I understand that all explanations will become useless disguises. I glared back at her and turned around, and left the box very resolutely. Natalie, we can't go back. From now on, you are you and I am me. She has her own path to follow. And I also have my future. It cannot be denied that she accompanied me for a period of time. But the past will eventually pass. After I left, Patrick followed behind me. He didn't dare to speak. I probably guessed how Natalie knew about me and Daisy. Patrick must have told Mia. I took him and sat in another box. The 2 of us ordered a lot of wine. Patrick drank a lot, but his consciousness was still clear. Patrick, if you still regard me as a brother, stay away from Mia from now on. I really don't know if I should tell Patrick that after he chased Mia for so long and got together, Mia cheated on him. At a young age, he became the father of 2 children. His deep affection was wrongly given to a dog. Patrick looked at me drunk and didn't know why I said these things. This is all I can do to help my brother. The rest is up to him. 14 The messy things have been dealt with almost. I let go and am ready to go all out. There is still a lot of money left after deducting the money for buying for demolition houses. It's just right for making some small investments. If I only want to make money in real estate, there may never be a high return. In the end, I still have to start a business. Ambition can help me achieve a brand new achievement. I seldom go to the library anymore. I am already extremely busy with the things in my hands. The demolition has been postponed again and again. I really can't spare the time. I asked Patrick to take my place so that I could spare half a day. I want to go to the library to see Daisy and apologize to her by the way. I left early that day. It was my fault. I was not good. I brought a big bag of snacks that she likes. I walked to the familiar position in the library and sat down. The books opposite were neatly put away. I waited for a long time, but still didn't see Daisy. Is she angry with me? She may have left early because of something. She has other things today. There is disappointment. But along with the disappointment, there is also a strange feeling that can't be put into words. I gave Patrick 500 yuan a day and asked him to keep an eye on the demolition area for me for 3 days. From morning to night. I waited for Daisy in the library for 3 days. But she still didn't show up. Many thoughts appeared in my mind. Those days when we read books together also reappeared. Simply reading books, with her sitting opposite me, has now become a luxury. The librarian told me that no one has sat in that position for a long time. Daisy walked into my world like a shining light and then quietly left. At that moment, I don't know whether it was a sense of frustration or regret that arose. I still owe her money. I don't believe she doesn't want to see me. After inquiring for a long time, I finally found out Daisy's home address. Her family lives in the most prosperous villa area in the south of the city. The villa area is separated from the outside by a river as a barrier. There are only 2 overpasses that can connect the inside and outside. I stood on the overpass closest to her home, just wanting to see her. I want to tell her that the money I owe her will be paid back soon. I'm really happy to know her. And saying that I want to pursue her was just a joke. There is still a big gap between me and her. On a rainy night, I still didn't want to leave while holding an umbrella. I waited for several days, but still didn't see that black Maybach. I was afraid of missing her. People cannot have youth, and the feeling of youth at the same time. Fortunately, now I have both of them. The heart of a 30-something uncle should not be so childish. But the wind I blew when I was young, the rain I was caught in, and the mistakes I made, I just don't want to miss them again. The roar of the Maybach V12 engine whistled past. The rainwater splashed to both sides along the tire tracks. The water splashed on my cheap sneakers. I looked up and saw that black Maybach. The most primitive instinct made me chase after the car and shout, "Daisy! Daisy! Daisy! I want to see you." I thought I had waited for the person I wanted to see. The unique umbrella in the Maybach protruded from the car. The woman dressed luxuriously and exuding an air of nobility came out. We looked at each other. She walked towards me holding an umbrella. I was stunned. Her unique temperament and proud expression made me unable to breathe. "It's you who secretly took Daisy out to play? She stole my card and gave it to you? Don't think I don't know what you are thinking? A toad wants to eat one's meat. Don't dream. You are not worthy of her. Can you afford the money Daisy gave you?" I didn't speak. A sense of frustration welled up in my heart in my 30s. The umbrella in my hand slipped to the ground. Pay back all 6 million within 1 month. This is still considering Daisy. If you deceived her, I won't pursue it. After saying that, she walked back to the car without looking back. The rainwater mixed with something that I didn't know if it was tears hit my face. That sentence emerged in my mind. 30 years on the east side of the river. 30 years on the west side of the river. Don't bully the young because they are poor. Although from the perspective of my 30-something mentality, this sentence itself is a joke. But I, who have youth, don't want to give up just like this. Contradictions and entanglements made me unprecedentedly awake. The words stuck in my heart still blurted out. "Daisy, wait for me. I will definitely come and marry you." To be honest, I don't know what gave me the courage to say this sentence. The window glass on the back seat of the Maybach was gently rolled down. Just rolled down. There was no other reaction. After the car had gone a long way, a hand stretched out from inside. The index finger and thumb made a circle. I smiled. The rain hitting my body didn't seem to be all sadness. I couldn't hide my excitement and jumped up and down happily. I seemed to have found the goal of this life. The motivation for me to move forward. 15 I haven't experienced that much with Daisy. She hasn't accompanied me through difficult times either. But the aura on her attracts me to approach her. Daisy sitting by the window in the library. Her entire youth is shining. In my entire youth, there was no girl who shone for me. I didn't wait for that person. My youth was wrongly given to Natalie. I admit that I was one soul of addicted to love-struck fool. The shameless kind. I don't know what it feels like to truly like someone. Everyone thinks that the school beauty should be liked. So I liked the school beauty. I was wrong. Liking requires feeling. And being together requires action. On that rainy night on the overpass. For the first time, I clearly knew what I really wanted. When an excellent person meets me, do I have the ability to match them? Having courage alone is far from enough. In the face of strength, everything is equal. The experiences of being in my 30s, in the body of a teenager, cannot hide the high spirits in my heart. In the past, I could only sigh. People say Luoring's flowers are like brocade. But I came at a time when spring is not here. But now, when the wind of youth blows on me, I must catch that wind that is worth 1 or 2 tals of gold per tal. I put all things behind me, and completely let go of love. Since I have been reborn. Let's achieve a small goal first. 16 if I remember correctly. The planning for construction, land in the south of the city, is to be used as a commercial and entertainment center. In my previous life, after graduating, I returned here and just idled away here. Every day, I lived the life of a 9 to 10 worker. Doing nothing. Natalie, the school beauty goddess in my mind, used the money I saved by being frugal to become a live streamer and finally hooked up with a rich second generation. I gave everything to her. In the end, after being a love-struck fool, I ended up with nothing. Since the south of the city is to be used as a secondary business district, I might as well do offline e-commerce here. In the next few years, with the rapid development of the internet, the era of short videos will come. If we can seize this opportunity, it will be much more than just a small goal. After finding the goal, I also have a direction. The first thing to solve is the original accumulation of capital. I invested the remaining money in my hand in several small engineering companies. After taking over, I only did earthwork projects. A large-scale demolition in the south of the city requires a huge number of earthwork fleets. The engineering teams also have a lot of demand for equipment. Just the leasing of equipment can earn a lot. After running around and coordinating all things, it was already a month later. The coordination of engineering companies is relatively simple. So I left it all to Patrick to take care of. Driven by the desire to make money, he didn't disappoint me either. The 1-month agreement was about to expire, but I still hadn't raised 6 million. I decided to confess to my parents. To my surprise, this time they didn't oppose or blame me. I went out early and came back late every day. My parents also heard some rumors from outside, but they still chose to support me unconditionally and stand behind me. When I heard that it wasn't criticism, my eyes were red and I couldn't say a word. Looking back at what I did in my previous life, I was really a jerk. In this life, I want to be filial to them. 17 My mom didn't ask anything and just gave me a bank card in one day. My dad mortgaged our family's house for 2 million yuan. And the 500,000 yuan they had saved for my college tuition was all given to me. I took the 2.5 million yuan and didn't say anything. I knelt down and kowtowed 3 times to them. The moment I walked out of the house, tears couldn't stop flowing down. My heart in my 30s knows what the most painful feeling is. There is a kind of pain called wanting to support parents, but they are not here. I took the 2.5 million yuan and all the available earnings from investing in engineering companies, plus a little bit of the demolition compensation that was paid out first. I managed to scrape together 6 million yuan. After all the demolition compensation is paid out, I can still get back about 3 or 4 million yuan. I took this money to Daisy's house and wanted to return it to Daisy in person. Daisy wasn't at home. She was sent abroad to study by her mother. I didn't see her. I gave the money to the butler and left. That long-held belief was once again extinguished. I destroyed it with my own hands. I don't know if what I did is right. I don't even know what's the point of doing this. Daisy didn't reveal any emotions to me. I'm just being one-sided. The butler called out to me. I didn't plan to turn back. Because it's really embarrassing to be seen crying by others. Are you Stephen? A letter from the young lady for you. I didn't have any way to contact Daisy. Even communication had to use this most primitive way. At the moment I got the letter, I was at a loss. Frankly speaking, I was a little afraid to open the envelope. I was afraid that the letter wouldn't have the result I wanted. The letter was in my hand. And the choice was also in my hand. The heart of a 30-something-year-old, and the heart of an 18-year-old struggled for a long time. In the end, the heart of the 18-year-old still gave in. I chose not to open that letter. At least for now. I don't have the courage to accept and face the result in the letter. A teen at 18. What kind of youth will I have? I have thought about this question countless times in the future. Every kind seems to be able to lead a wonderful life. Now standing at this crossroads of 18, with choices in my hand, I have become hesitant. The summer vacation after the college entrance examination ended. Patrick also earned a lot of money from me. He still wants to go to the city where Mia reported her college entrance examination to go to college. He didn't listen to my advice and still insisted on chasing Mia. I don't blame him. No one can replace the choices of youth. I didn't choose to go to college. It took me 12 years to leave school. And it also took me 12 years to enter society. At that time, I had youth. But I wasn't happy. When they were enjoying their youth, I gave up everything for her. I hope this choice is right. I wholeheartedly spent all my time on improving my strength and making myself stronger and better. After all the demolition compensation was paid out, I didn't rush to return the money to my parents. I invested all the funds in the construction of the south of the city. All the money earned from the earthwork projects was also invested. It didn't take long before I integrated several engineering teams and made it the largest earthwork engineering company in the city. In the hardest way. I completed the original accumulation of capital. The ultimate goal is to do internet e-commerce. A path that combines online and offline entities. I didn't forget to improve myself. I joined business associations and participated in business activities. As soon as possible, I established my own internet e-commerce company and planned to combine it with physical industries. The old city in the south of the city has also become the new district in the south of the city. Various renovations have been gradually completed. I want to make a great achievement in this vast world. 19 time passed very quickly. For years passed in a flash. I didn't receive any news from Daisy. She seemed to disappear from my world out of thin air. Patrick would come back every year during vacations. Sometimes he would bring Mia to see me. However, he was still as humble as ever. Natalie. I never saw her again. I heard that she went abroad. I became a business genius attracting the attention of the whole city. I completed several small goals in just for short years. Once, a financial journalist asked me a question. Stephen, on your road to success, what has been supporting you all along? Hearing this question, I hesitated for a long time. Daisy. I didn't have any concerns and blurted out the answer. Daisy is the only daughter of the Daisy family. This is known to all. When I said the word Daisy, it meant accepting all negative news reports. After the report was broadcast, many people saw it. And they also knew about me. How I hoped that Daisy could also know. I was invited to participate in a business firm abroad. It was the first time I saw the outside world. For the first time, I was regarded as a successful person and stood in the center of the banquet to share my experiences with everyone. After the banquet ended, I had a feeling of loss. Where on earth is Daisy? I really want to see her. I've always wanted to. 20 I have been looking for her. In these 4 years, I have met many people. But I am just looking for her shadow on others. The host of the banquet invited the organizer of the business firm to give a speech. A girl entered my field of vision. At first, I thought it was just another girl, who looked very much like her. Please welcome Miss Daisy, the representative of the forum organizer, to take the stage and give a speech. That voice reached my ears and my head buzzed and went blank. I looked up and saw that she on the stage was shining brightly. Just like when I first saw her in the library. Having missed her youth. Can I match her in the remaining time? After the banquet ended, I couldn't wait to meet her. But when it was really time to meet her, I was a little afraid and timid. The unknown result for years ago lingered in my heart. The pride of a teenager was faintly acting up. Daisy's fair skin was so delicate that it seemed as if it could be broken by a blow. Her snow-white dress paired with crystal high heels was noble and elegant, with an attractive temperament. My eyes met hers amid the laughter and voices of everyone. Her eyes had everything I wanted to know. She took me to the outside terrace and sat down. I didn't speak and just looked at her quietly. "Stephen, you are here. Is everything okay?" Her voice had changed, and it was a little unrecognizable. That lovely girl who didn't know how to please others has now become a real woman. "Everything is fine. Why didn't you contact me? I want to confirm one thing. Have you ever liked me?" There was a bit of childishness in my words, as if I was pouring out all the grievances of these for years. Daisy was a little wronged, and looked at me with red eyes. "Yes. 4 years ago." The answer was already in that letter. I was silent. I had never opened that letter. It had been quietly placed in the dream of the red chamber, that she had read. If I had opened that letter 4 years ago, could we still meet here? Maybe if I had opened that letter, we could have been together long ago. Teenagers should not be defeated by fragile self-esteem. If you like someone, you should boldly pursue them, instead of being like me, missing and then lamenting the missed youth with her. I grabbed Daisy's hand tightly. I want to hold her tightly and accompany her to relive the missed youth. "Let's go back to our country together." Daisy nodded gently and responded, "Okay. I will accompany you from now on." Extra Chapter 1. The lights were bright and the figures were scattered. Stephen held Daisy's hand and strolled by the river. They just walked quietly without anyone speaking. The lake breeze blew through Daisy's hair. Her unadorned face was slightly flushed. "Stephen, will you blame me for not contacting you all these years?" Stephen stopped and took a long breath facing the center of the lake. "Yes." Daisy was still as cold as ever and didn't plan to please Stephen. She took Stephen and the two of them sat on a bench. "If I had contacted you, could we still be together?" Daisy had her own considerations. The man in front of her was no longer the same teenager as before. She liked that teenager and had always liked him. But she also knew that liking requires waiting. Wait a little longer. She was betting on her future and also on Stephen's future. This was also their future. The Daisy family could not tolerate an ordinary person, a useless man entering the Daisy family, even if it was someone she liked. A relationship that was not well matched was not to last long. She was waiting for Stephen to grow and for their future. Daisy was willing to lend Stephen 6 million yuan and give him for years. She even made a bet with her mother. If Stephen returned the 6 million yuan he borrowed to her after 1 month, her mother would agree to give Stephen for years. If Stephen didn't return the 6 million yuan, he wouldn't receive the letter Daisy left for him. Nevertheless, Daisy still secretly helped Stephen behind her family's back. She was also paying attention to everything about Stephen. This business forum was also prepared by Daisy herself for Stephen. Their lives should intersect. Every step Stephen took and every step of his success had someone cheering for him. Daisy stared at Stephen intently and smiled slightly. "Stephen, I want to know your answer." The pride of a teenager started to act up again at this moment. That knife stabbed into Stephen's heart. He didn't dare to answer but had to answer. "I don't know. I'm afraid. I'm afraid of missing you. I'm afraid that this regret is something I can't make up for." Stephen's psychological defense completely collapsed. He had resolved countless setbacks he had faced one by one. But this time, he was really heartbroken. His life couldn't withstand scrutiny. Every step was full of thorns. The memories and experiences of his previous life made him already have the expected result before making a choice. Now he clearly knew that maybe if he had opened that letter, he wouldn't have worked as hard as he does now, and it wouldn't be the result today. He was just like all those people who were weak, wronged, and lonely. Stephen looked at Daisy with tears in his eyes, looking like a child who had been wronged. Daisy didn't say anything and gently pulled him into her arms. The plane landed in the country. Stephen's heart finally settled down. The result that he didn't dare to open for years ago was quietly lying in that dream of the red chamber. "I'll wait for you." Only 3 words. Daisy had already made a choice long ago. It was just that Stephen was still a teenager with nothing at that time. His greatest courage was just to move forward bravely. For him, having no result might already be the best result. At this moment, Stephen felt relieved. All the grievances of his previous life disappeared. Under the witness of Stephen's parents, Daisy and Stephen got engaged. The Daisy family didn't oppose. Daisy's mother only said 4 words. "Well matched." The wedding was held as scheduled. Patrick and Mia brought their lovely daughter to congratulate. When Stephen saw Patrick and Mia, he was stunned for a moment and then patted Patrick on the shoulder and smiled happily. The unchanging future was quietly changing at this moment. The future is not unchangeable. The present has become the best time to change the future. Stephen knelt on one knee and looked at Daisy, with the corners of his mouth slightly raised. "Daisy, will you marry me?" Daisy nodded and smiled happily on her face. "I will. Always will."